domestic and family violence is a really complex issue and something that we all need to stand up and deal with and be part of and ensure we've got solutions to address it. And that's just community attitudes as well. But what we often hear is there's nowhere to go. There's no referral pathway. We know that people on temporary visas often may get to refuge, but then there's nowhere to go after. And that's why we're also calling on government and those that can support our peak body with social housing investment. So we really want to see 5,000 social houses each year for the next 10 years invested into New South Wales. And we know that will increase economic outcomes for New South Wales, and we know it will increase employment, which is really important. But we certainly welcome the fact that this announcement does include social housing. And that's going to be really important because when you come out of refuge, you need to make sure you've got that housing pathway away and that trauma recovery space.
Of that, this announcement, how many of those social houses do you expect will be built out of that 5,000 that you're calling for?
Well, 200 for domestic and family violence victims we've heard today, and we know that there was 1,000 on Saturday. So we know we need much, much more, and that's going to be something that we're, continuing to have to advocate on because it's so significant, the housing issue across New South Wales. So a huge focus is needed there as well. But really, really pleased to see that those turn-away rates that some services have told us 1 in 2 clients are turned away. We have to get that crisis support right, but crisis alone does not solve domestic and family violence. But this is significant and welcomed. However, we also are pushing for prevention, early intervention, housing pathways. So there's so much more to do, but certainly welcome this investment today.
That statistic that you just mentioned, that 50% of women are turned away, is just heartbreaking and so shocking. Absolutely. How big is this problem?
Oh, this problem is so huge. And I think if we all actually looked inwardly, we would have to think about some of the attitudes we have, some of the victim blaming we do, and even, work with media is really important to make sure there isn't those victim blaming headlines. The issue is huge. And we know that certainly in COVID, domestic and family violence and inequality of women was exacerbated because of the systems and structures that we've already set up in society. So a huge amount of work needs to be done to unpick that and to get into workplaces, to schools, into community organisations, to start talking about respect, sexism, domestic and family violence, and have open conversations and ensure anyone in the community knows how to say to a friend, this is 1-800-RESPECT, and this is how you can get help, and this is where help exists. So we've all got to educate ourselves on this issue and not think it's not anywhere near us. It's with us every day, and we know that sadly 1 woman a week is murdered from domestic and family violence. So this is something that's close to each and every one of us, and we really want all the solutions invested in, and one of them is crisis in this current climate.
Given what we've seen during COVID-19, I guess one of the really pervasive aspects of this is that so many of us have been stuck at home, and there's been a lot of discussion about if you are in one of these situations of family and domestic violence, that it makes it even harder to get out, that your phone might be monitored, you might be in a small flat, for example. What do you say to anyone who is watching you today if they're stuck in one of these situations?
I say help is out there, and try and seek it as best as you can. I know it's really scary right now, and there are people that want to support you. We know certainly in COVID-19, certainly our services told us that they saw a 73% increase in demand, but we also know that 15 of our services didn't see an increase. And Dan, that's exactly what you're saying. That's people stuck inside, unable to get help. We know certainly in COVID last year that 1-800-RESPECT had so many hits after midnight. So women affected by domestic and family violence are having to be so resourceful and creative about how do they get help. We know even shopping centres and, in vaccination clinics now, we're saying get posters up, get referral pathways up, ensure that there is information for women who are basically stuck inside right now and need, if they're going shopping, at least there might be some information and posters around in the shops that they can access relevant help services, because there is definitely help out there, and the sector's really wanting to engage and support safely those women.
And so important that they know that there is that help there, even if it is through COVID clinics or shopping centres or the like. Today's announcement of almost $500 million, you've said it will go some way. How much more is needed?
Yes, it will. Gosh, we know that there was also some announcements with the New South Wales budget last year, and there was a national partnership agreement, which, will have 140 million invested into service demand and some of the prevention work that's needed. And we look forward to those announcements from the government coming soon, we hope. But so much more is needed. Sometimes I think this is great and this is record for New South Wales, and I want to be, see that's progress and really welcome that. But we do also need to significantly invest in prevention and early intervention. And we need to be looking at every level of society to address this. We need to be thinking about the fact that we've got a gender pay gap in Australia. We need to look at the fact that, like I said, there needs to be so much more investment into housing. We need to be making sure children and young people know how to get support. And that's also really important, children and young people being seen and heard through the pandemic, and those children and young people that have been affected by domestic and family violence in their homes. So there are a number of solutions. They do need investing, and we will continue to work really closely with the government to ensure that those needs and demands are addressed. And this investment today is definitely welcome in terms of 75 new refuges across the strait to add as well to the 86 already existing. And again, this is one response that's really, really significant, and we still again need those other responses, and we need schools to step up. We need respectful relationships education in every school. We need those schools to think about culture as well, not just the kind of let's do a program and children and young people can learn about violence. It's got to be whole of community, whole of school work. So lots to do, but really, really welcome today's investment.
And if you or anyone that you know needs help, you can contact Respect or Lifeline using the numbers on your screen.